Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Hope you all are doing well. Welcome back to the series where I'm basically rewiring like 99% of the car. In today's video, I'm gonna be relocating the battery to the trunk and then running the battery cables up to the starter, the fuse box, all that stuff. So follow along as I show you guys how I'm gonna do this. All right, so this is the trunk area. Obviously, we're gonna be mounting the battery right where the spare tire would be. I got this battery box here from NOCO. It's basically for a 6-volt battery, like a golf cart battery, but it just so happens to work pretty decently with a Honda battery. So the idea is to mount this guy right up in here. I'm gonna drill 2 holes inside the battery box there. Then I'm gonna mark it on the actual chassis there, drill through the chassis, and then I'm gonna rib nut those 2 holes. That way I can send 2 bolts through the battery box here into the rib nut, and that will secure the battery box here to the chassis. All right, I got the 2 holes drilled there. So I'm gonna place this in the trunk here, just kind of eyeball the position of the box. That right there is pretty good. So what I'll do here is I will mark the holes up top. Just like that. So get the 2 holes marked there, and then I'll go ahead and drill those 2 holes. Alright, so instead of using the footman's loops that come with the battery box and then the actual strap that actually straps the battery in, I'm not going to use that because it really isn't the most secure way to secure the battery inside the box. I want to be able to secure it a little bit more properly. So I went to good old Home Depot and picked up these, basically they're called rope loops or just a different type of footman's loops. And I'm going to use the factory battery hold down in conjunction with these loops. So basically these guys are going to be mounted inside the battery box like this. And the battery's going to be right in between. And I'm going to utilize the factory J-hooks just like so. And then the factory battery mount bracket up top. And that's going to hold it inside the battery box nice and secure. And then this thing will be bolted down to the chassis. So that's the plan. Alright, so I got the footman's loops installed. These are 2 holes that are going to bolt the box down to the actual chassis. And then when the battery is placed in here, these J-hooks will hook right into the footman's loops. And then the factory battery bracket will hold it down. Should work pretty good. Alright, and just like that, battery is in place. This is a lot more secure than if it was that strap that came along with it. So this battery is not moving side to side. It's in there real secure. I'm super happy with this actually. Alright, now that the battery is secure, it's time to actually start running the cables. But first, back here, one last step is that we're going to be installing a circuit breaker back here for the starting circuit. This is an 80 amp circuit breaker, so it's just like what's in the factory fuse box, an 80 amp fuse. If you don't know what a circuit breaker is, it's basically a form of circuit protection, so it's similar to like a fuse, but just kind of a different style. It's got a bimetallic strip inside, so if you were, say, for example, to look at this pen here, this is the strip that's making the connection from this post to this post here. and it's a bimetallic strip, meaning it's made out of 2 different materials. So that means it's going to have 2 different expansion rates. If you're looking at a pen, this thing would be split along the long side of the pen itself. So it would have a material on top and a different material on bottom. And because the 2 metals have a different expansion rate, when there is a short circuit of some kind where there's excessive amperage, which means there's going to be a lot of heat in the system, it's going to heat it up. And because they have different expansion rates, it's going to start to fold on itself. And that's what happens when there's a short. It folds on itself and it flips the circuit open and pops it just like that. The thing that's nice about circuit breakers is that there's resetting, so you can actually reset it, just pop it back in place and it's good to go. Whereas if a fuse popped, you'd have to pull it out and put a brand new fuse in. To protect the circuit here, we're going to put this in. I think I'm going to mount it right here on the side of the box. So of course I'll remove the battery so I don't accidentally drill into the battery. We'll mount it here, and basically the cable will run from the battery post to one post of the circuit breaker, and then the other side of the circuit breaker is going to go from here and travel along the inside of the roll cage. You want your wiring on the inside of the roll cage in case there are any impacts. You don't want to have your positive battery cable in between the roll cage or the outside shell of the car or whatever else made contact or impacted your car, because then if it does happen and pinch the battery cable, then of course it's going to create a short and a potential fire hazard. Realistically, this should trip right away to save that circuit from burning up and all the wiring in your car, but you can never be too safe, so that's why you got to run those battery cables inside. So it's going to come from that post on the circuit breaker all the way up around here, and I'm going to be installing a master cutoff switch on the driver's side over there. So that wire is gonna, or that cable is gonna run all the way from the back around here up to the master switch, and then from the master switch it's gonna come back over here and to this battery post on the panel right here. And this is basically going to be a power distribution post right here. There is the fuse box cable. It's just going to swing back around, connect up there, and that's what's going to power everything in the fuse box and the ECU and then everything in the engine bay there. And then from here also I'm going to run a cable from right here to the actual starter itself so that we can start the car. And then for the alternator, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run an 8-gauge cable from the alternator back around this way to this circuit breaker so that I can protect that circuit there, and then it's going to go up to the master switch. So pre-switch post, that way when I switch that master switch off, it should shut the car off and the alternator won't continue to run the engine. All right, it's the next morning and I've got the entire day to work on the car to try to get it done. Yesterday, I actually ran out of positive battery cable, or just battery cable with red insulation. There's no difference between positive or negative. I ran out and I still need to run a cable from that positive battery post to the starter itself. So I went to AutoZone, just picked up I think it's a 60 foot or 60 inch, not 60 foot, 60 inch 4-gauge cable. I'm going to cut off these ends, put my own ends on, and then run that from the starter to the battery post. And that should pretty much be about it as far as running cables. The ground cable coming off the battery, I ended up getting Wire's grounding kit. So I'll just be using that. It already has the terminal on and everything. So we're getting pretty close to finishing this battery relocation. Let's go ahead and get it done so that we can continue working on the rest of the car. All right, I got all the power cables run now, so that's going to the starter. It's gonna loop around here through the hole in the firewall. And then you'll see that everything ends up right here at this post. So that's, again, fuse box, starter, coming from the main switch and then all the way back to the battery. Now we just gotta finish off the ground side, and we've got wire, ground wire, and I'm basically going to be tapping in this little threaded hole right here. This is where the spare wheel would go. So I'll just send a bolt through there, through the eyelet, like so, and then right to that, and obviously the other side is going to go right to the negative terminal. And then that should finish up the battery relocation. All right, and just like that, the battery relocation is done. If you look here, I've got the top on. Negative cable comes through this little axis and the positive through that. Again, just go over the whole install. Everything's secure there, the battery's secure, got the battery circuit breaker there. And then all of the wiring coming up to this post up here. Master kill switch on the other side. That goes to the starter, this goes to the fuse box. I think I can pretty much start moving on to the engine bay. I can start installing the engine harness. That'll be in the next video. So let's wrap up this video. This is all good now. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and put those questions down in the comment section below. And then if you want to stay up to date with the build, this is going to be, you know, a 3, 4, 5 part series. I don't know how many, but I'm going to try to break this whole job up into several little videos so that it's just not one ginormous video. But if you want to stay up to date, go ahead and subscribe and share the video if you'd like. And if you like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. But until then, I will see you guys in the next video.